In this episode, we look at the remaining 4 of our 8 project performance domains. Hello and welcome back to the Project Management Podcast at pm-podcast.com. I'm Cornelius Fichtner. This is episode 483, and just like the previous one, it was recorded live on YouTube and Facebook, and it's part of the PM Prepcast, which is my PMP exam prep training course. I'm sharing this one with you here again on the Project Management Podcast as a follow-up to the 12 principles and a completion of the 8 project performance domains that you see here on the screen, so that you can keep on top of the developments in project management theory. In that way you don't have to necessarily read the complete PMBOK guide. And as always, as in episodes like this one here, it is a video episode. If you are not seeing the video, then please visit pm-podcast.com/483, where you can play the video. Let's begin. Hello everyone and welcome to the Project Management Prepcast. I am your instructor Cornelius Fichtner, and this lesson is recorded with a live audience on Facebook and YouTube, and we are going to take a look at the project performance domains. In fact, this here is part 2 of 2. In part 1, on the left, we looked at stakeholders, team, development approach and lifecycle, as well as the planning domain. And right now here in part 2, we are going to take a look at product work, delivery, measurement, and uncertainty that you can see on the right. But as always with these lessons that we are basing on the PMBOK guide, I am not going to be reading the PMBOK guide to you. That would be awfully boring. Hello, everybody. Instead, what we have done is we have taken the PMBOK guide as a starting point. We did our own research and we wrote an article which would be called, there we go, there we are. It is called the 8 Project Performance Domains, the Project Management Expert's Guide. And in this article, like I said, we follow the PMBOK guide, the structure of the domains. We use the same names, but it's by no means a derivative. This is based on our own research. Here is our agenda for today. We are going to be reviewing performance domains 5 to 4. Oh my, 5 to 8 is what this is supposed to read here. Slide number 3, and we are already finding a typo. Wonderful. This is what live presentation is all about. I'll do a quick summary at the end and also a take action for you. So let's start with domains 5 to 4 here. Let's get going. So the 4 domains, 5 to 8, obviously. The first one that we are going to be looking at is 5 project work. That is all about managing project tasks. In particular, this domain, the project work domain, it covers everything that is involved with ensuring that our project can operate within our organization. This domain, it touches on and it defines the processes for running a project in your company. It also talks about resource management. That's also part of this, but also creating a culture of project delivery within the organization by making sure that we project managers and our colleagues have the option to learn from each other and from the other projects around us. Now, let's jump into the first expert quote that I have here from you. This is from Antje Lehmann at antjelehmann.com. She is a project manager, PMP trainer out of Germany. The project work gets done by the team. So these 2 domains work together. And yes, it goes pretty much without saying that a happy, effective, and high-performing team will do better build better project work. I'm even taking this one step further, and I'm saying that it's not only the team domain, but also the team principle from the ANSI standard that is also part of the PMBOK guide that goes hand in hand here. So the team principle, we've looked at that when we discussed the 12 principles from the PMBOK guide, the team domain here, and the project work. It all goes hand in hand because we have to make sure that everything that we do, the team is at the core. Without the team, the project work won't get done. And you need to follow the principles. You need to understand the domain in order to get this really done. All right, so when it comes to the project work, oftentimes we project managers are being told how a project needs to be run. And you can see this here at the bottom. We're already starting early with our audience participation here. I would like to know from you, when you run a project, who tells you how you're supposed to run the project, right? Who defines your project management processes in your company? Do you have a PMO? Do you just have a project management methodology? Do you have a grassroots movement with your colleagues? Please use the chat on Facebook and on YouTube and tell me who defines how you do your project work, and we'll bring them up, right? So, because it's where strategic alignment plays a big part in project work. If you have a PMO, as we're suggesting here on this slide, their work will shape this domain, from choosing the right performance metrics to making sure that you have resources available on your project to actually deliver what you're supposed to be deliver, and understanding the strategic priorities. There is a lot to consider if your organization wants to achieve its goals. Marjorie is here again. She was here in the previous lesson as well. And she says that in my case, the PMO provides the guidelines on how we manage our projects. All right, thank you very much, Marjorie. I don't have anybody else at this point who's talking about this in the chat, so we are moving on. But you get the idea generally, right? We need to deliver the work, and we need to somehow define how that work is processed, what the methodologies are. Here we go. Our next quote. This comes to us from Shiv Shenoy at pmexamsmartnotes.com. And he says, ask this question here. Do we have the capability, or do we need external help for project work? You'll get some very important insights by asking this very question at the beginning of your project. I asked this question at the beginning of the project of which you're seeing a result right now. When we embarked on the project management prepcast, I asked who on our team is going to be the project manager for this huge project. It's usually the largest project in our company at any given time. And I quickly realized we don't have anybody available. We don't have a resource with the available time, right? And capability, yes, definitely everybody on our team could do this, but they're not available. So we had to bring in a new project manager. That turned out to be Janine Ferrelli, whom we hired in particular to manage this project here of delivering and creating our next PMP exam prep course, which you are watching right now. Okay, so we're talking about the project work domain. Let's jump into a PMP exam sample question here. This one is taken from our PM exam simulator at pmexamsimulator.com. Again, as always, I would like you to please, in the chat, tell me, is it A, B, C, or D? Here's the question. As part of continuous improvement, the team members are looking for ways to optimize the process they use to conduct the work. At the iteration retrospective, an agile coach suggests using a lean production method, which would allow the team to analyze the process and identify and subsequently remove waste. How should the team implement the agile coach's suggestion? Should they A, apply value stream mapping? Should they B, utilize a wideband Delphi technique? Or is it C, they develop a prototype of the process? Or do they simply D, conduct a what if scenario analysis? I'm going to give you about 20 seconds here. Please tell me A, B, C, or D in the chat. We'll review the answer later. All right, I am getting a couple of answers here. We have Arnab on YouTube who says this is an A. Marjorie also on YouTube, an A. We have another A here coming from Hachem. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. I hope so. Barry gives us an A. You are, in fact, all correct. The correct answer is indeed A. Apply value stream mapping. Now, value stream mapping, that is a lean method which is used to document, analyze, and improve the flow of information or materials that are required to produce a deliverable. In the context of this question here, of this scenario, this method can help the team optimize their processes by analyzing, identifying, and subsequently removing waste from the project. Yeah. And of course, establishing and periodically reviewing the processes that are used by the project team and conduct the work, that is part of continuous improvement efforts. And we as prudent project leaders, we have to do this in order to manage our projects effectively. Process tailoring can be used to optimize the processes for the needs of the project and the team. And agile teams, like the ones that are described in this scenario here, they often use value stream mapping. That's, by the way, it's a technique that is borrowed from the lean manufacturing method, and it's used to identify and remove the waste from production systems. In essence, what you're doing is you're looking at your processes and you're saying, okay, which of the activities we do are value add and which ones are not value add, and which ones can we improve, which ones can we remove? How do we improve the value of this process? So you're analyzing the process from start to finish. Yes, so we apply value stream mapping for this in order to contribute to an improved project success going forward. Right, we're moving on to our next domain, domain number 6, delivery, transferring project results. This domain, the delivery domain, helps our team understand and carry out the business objectives of the current project efficiently. And this is the domain that links business strategy to project results. If you've heard me talk about what projects really do in the past, you'll know that I always say the same thing. We project managers are in charge of implementing the corporate strategy because the C-level executives define where we need to go. Oftentimes, that leads to a strategy, a change in our company, and we project managers, we implement that. So this particular domain here helps us do that. It links the business strategy to project results, right? For many project managers, this is their favorite domain because we get to do what we love to do best, delivering outcomes and seeing the results of our labor. And of course, by delivering the right things, we can help our organizations move closer to our overall goals. Now, you may be thinking, wait a minute, didn't we talk about delivery when we were in domain 3 and we talked about the development approach, the life cycle? Didn't we talk about delivering products and projects there? Well, let me try and do this here. So before we go on, let's define what we mean by delivery in the context here. What you see here, it isn't 100% perfect, okay? This slide tries to compare the two. I tried my best. It is really hard to get down to it. Nothing in project management is this black and white, but for the concept, for the approach of the PMP exam, let me try this. So domain 3, on the left, this is where we discussed the development approach and the life cycle. And this is a little bit more focused on delivering the product. Sometimes, mostly the product, a little bit the project, but mostly this, we're talking about what do we have to do in order to develop things, the results, the outcomes, the product. How do we do this? And then the current domain 6 on the left, on the right, excuse me, is a little bit more focused on delivering the project as a whole. So delivering the work result of our project. So on the left, we deliver the product mostly, and on the right, we deliver the overall work, the benefits, the outcomes, the business results in support of the overall corporate strategy. Again, not 100% perfect yet, but it's good enough for a comparison left to right. We have a quote here from Shane Drum of Agile Project Manager, and he agrees with this, and he says, the one and only rule for managing stakeholders is no surprises. Yeah. And here we're obviously referring to no surprises regarding project delivery. We're not just saying, well, no surprises to stakeholders. They just don't like surprises on our projects, right? This means constant communication is important. Proactive communication is critical to our project success, creating a stakeholder register, engaging with them. This can help formalize communication to avoid sporadic updates. Regardless of the approach, it should be clear to all what they can expect and when. And again, this is in regards to project delivery, right? Engaging your stakeholders, communicating with your stakeholders, making sure that they understand what the delivery is, when things are delivered, how they are being delivered. I'm going to get back to this in a little bit. I think in the next domain, we'll tie it back in. For now, just remember, right? No surprises, very important. In this way, you can inform your stakeholders early on that there are issues, that you may need their input, that a decision was made to do X on the project so that they are aware what's happening in regards to the delivery. Getting stakeholders involved is crucial for making sure that the team delivers the right outcome, says Elizabeth Herron. When people feel involved, they are more likely to take action, make timely decisions, and provide feedback that helps shape the project in a positive way. And that, again, will not only help us deliver the right outcomes, but also deliver them at the right time. I don't know if you've noticed this, but at the end of when we reviewed domain 1, 2, 3, and 4, or was it at the beginning? I'm not sure where. I think Marcus Kopko said, you cannot look at these 8 domains individually. They fit like a puzzle, right? Did you notice that most of the time right now here in this delivery domain, I talked about managing stakeholders and how important it is for the delivery domain? And we talked about stakeholders in a different domain. You see how everything now starts to fit and needs to work hand in glove, so to speak, right? Yeah. So let's talk about delivering our work a little bit. Yeah. When we consider this domain, think about how you can run the project in the best possible way. And again, running the project in the best possible way takes us back to the development approach and life cycle from domain 3, right? And so how do you do that in order to being able to deliver your work best? It might be advantageous to stagger delivery and release incremental updates at various stages to capture the value as early as possible in the life cycle to achieve the strategic business objectives that you want to be achieving. Or the right thing to do might be to bundle up changes and release them all together, as a big bang release, as a structured organizational initiative, right? So there are so many ways you can do this. Obviously, customization comes into this. You really have to tailor your project and your delivery, the delivery of your work according to what it is best. Antje, in regard to this, says that, yeah, incremental delivery is getting more and more the norm. Yeah, nowadays, iterative incremental delivery getting more and more the norm. Frequent early delivery is important. It allows you to get fast feedback, quick adaptation to changes, and success moments for the team. Because if you deliver again and again and again and again, you have little successes versus, we have to wait for 2 years before we can deliver and have a huge success at the end. We're getting to the next question here from our exam simulator, and I'm going to ask you to do something a little different this time. Let me bring up the question right here, and let's talk about what I want you to do first here, right? So instead of you telling me just which is the correct one, the correct answer, I want you to think of two answers. I want you to give me two. I want you to tell me which is the least likely, and I want you to tell me which one is correct. So in the chat, X-X, so the first X would be, I think A is the least likely, and the second X would be, I think B is the correct one, or B and C, or D and A, or whatever it may be in your case, right? So first letter that you give me is least likely, gut feeling, this is the least likely one of the four, and second letter is which one is correct. All right, so here's the question. A project does not have clearly defined requirements upfront. To evolve the requirements as the project unfolds, the team will build prototypes, create storyboards and mock-ups, and hold demonstrations for relevant stakeholders. What approach to evolving requirements are the stakeholders more likely to take in this project? Are they going to be using adaptive development approaches? Are they going to do hands-on and top-down approach? Are they using caves and commons approach? Or are they going to use the, well, I know when I see it approach? So again, in your answer, tell me in your first letter, this is the least likely of the four, and your second letter, and this is what I think is correct. So I'm expecting 2 letters in your responses. All right, I am starting to get the first answers here. So Arnab says least likely D, correct is A. Mike has CB, BA, DA, BA, BA, and correct is D. Okay, is what Mike says. Okay, so Mike changed his opinion. He went from C to D. Okay, so why did I ask you to do this? I asked you to do this because when I prepared this presentation, I got this completely wrong. And I was like, wow, I got this totally wrong. And I would have expected the correct answer to be the absolute least likely. I looked at this going, we always have a throwaway answer within the potential answer choices. I was like, yeah, that's the throwaway, right? All right, let me end the suspense here. Which is correct? Believe it or not, D is correct. I'll know it when I see it. approach. So Mike here with his uppercase correction, correct is D. He is right. So D is correct. Just so you know, 65%, almost 2/3 of our students say A is the correct answer. This is a really hard question. Why? For two reasons. Number one, I know it when I see it doesn't sound like a structured approach that we would use in project management. Believe it or not, it is. The I know it when I see it approach is mentioned in the PMBOK Guide. Section 2621, requirements, discusses this particular approach and a way of evolving requirements. 2621, in case you want to look it up. In case you don't want to look it up, have you ever worked with a customer and the customer was like, yeah, I'd like to have it this way and that way and the other way. And then you kind of make a prototype, you show it to them, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's close to it, but could we do da, 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 da? All right, you go back, you bring another prototype. This is it. That's it. That's it. That's exactly what I was thinking of. That is the I know it when I see it approach. And think of it. This is normal. This happens every single day on projects around the world. The customer isn't really sure what they want and how they want it, and therefore evolving the requirements from the customer's perspective is the I know it when I see it approach. Now, let's take a look at the second problem in this particular question. What approach here to evolving requirements are the stakeholders more likely to take in this project? Answer A would be correct if it said here, is the development team more likely to take, right? So if we're talking about the development team, the people who actually develop the solution, they will go, yeah, let's do adaptive, right? We're doing something, we're giving it to the customer. They say, yeah, no, left, right, center, up, down. Okay, we'll take it back. We adapt it to what you've said. We're giving it back to you. So the development team does the adaptive approach. But we're not talking about the development team here. We're talking about the stakeholders. If you've watched the previous lesson, when we talked about the stakeholders, I made a statement, or was it Oliver Lehmann, that said, when you see the term stakeholders in a PMP question, make sure you understand what is meant by stakeholder in that particular context. And in this context here, stakeholder does not mean the development team. Stakeholders here means the customer, the people who have the final say in evolving the requirements. Yeah? Okay, so it is the I'll know it when I see it approach. Okay, we all learned something new because I got it wrong and many of you also got it wrong. I think Mike here, he's probably going, I got it right. Okay, moving on. That was our second domain here out of the 4, delivery, and we move on to measurement. Measurement is all about understanding progress and how our project is currently on our roadmap. Yeah, so part of project management is ensuring that you select the right approaches for measuring performance. And when I say the right approaches, obviously I'm using air quotes here because the right approach for me is not the right approach for you, but also taking corrective action when the performance that you see is not aligned with what was planned. Measuring project performance is essential if you want to know how the work is progressing. However, project performance measurements gives us much more information than simply, are we on track? Are we where we supposed to be? Measures like the cost performance index, schedule performance index, yeah, they provide detailed information that helps our team understand whether we are ahead, behind plan, and crucially, it helps us pinpoint why that might be. right? It's not just where are we and is it okay, but why are we where we are? And talked about earned value. Earned value metrics, definitely a useful part of that, and getting back on track. That is an important part of this domain, in particular when we are talking about earned value and the PMP exam. Our next expert here, his name is Cornelius Fichtner, and he says, earned value management was developed in 1966, more or less, and it is still required for the PMP exam. Let me show you this slide here, okay? This here is a screenshot of the slides from the PMP exam prep training course that we created in 2009, over what, 12 years ago, right? If you watch this lesson today, it is still valid. 95%. There are a few things that I say in there that are not necessarily valid anymore because they refer to how earned value is used on the PMP exam. That has changed, but the basics of earned value from 2009, from this presentation here, still valid. All of it, all the technology, all the techniques, they still apply to the PMP exam today. The slides are ugly. Back then, this was the norm, right? This was the type of PowerPoint presentation you would expect. Today, it's totally different, but conceptually, still valid. Elizabeth says here, in my experience, how project managers measure success is often different on how customers measure success. We may be measuring our project success based on earned value and follow these principles here, but our customers may do it differently. Yes, projects are measured differently by every person, right? What I consider a success is not your success. If I show you this picture here, you know immediately where that is, right? You know this is in Australia, this is the Sydney Opera House. This is a classic example of project success measured differently. It is widely considered a complete and utter project management failure. It was totally over budget, and it took forever to complete. The schedule was blown out of the water. But what would the city skyline be without this as a landmark, as a legacy? The people love this. When I was in Australia, this was the one thing I definitely wanted to go see, and I did, right? It's been a huge success for Australia, for the city itself. So how do we resolve this issue that we and customers measure things differently? Simple. Again, Elizabeth says, I tend to measure projects by how the customer or the stakeholder rates success. When you ask customers what is important to them, you get clarity about what they value, and that helps make project decisions later. If you know how they will measure success, how they will rate success, you can make the correct decisions. Here's her example of what happened to her, okay? On one project, she knew that it was okay to deliver late than expected, as long as the output was top quality. All right, let me repeat that. It was okay to go beyond the scheduled delivery date as long as you deliver top-notch quality. Top-notch quality, that's what the customer wanted, right? So she says, we kept our customer informed on every step of the way. And I, Elizabeth, I was surprised that the customer didn't seem worried about the deadlines. But a quality result was more important than hitting an arbitrary date for this project. So Elizabeth kept the customer informed, told them about when delivery was going to happen, how it was going to be delivered, and now we're going to tie this particular example back to the delivery domain that we spoke about just a moment ago. Remember this slide here from domain 6, delivery domain? From Shane, the one and only rule for managing stakeholders in regards to delivery is this: no surprises, right? And this is exactly how Elizabeth tied this domain here and the delivery domain into each other. We keep the stakeholders apprised, we tell them what's going on, right? And this just brings everything together here. And Shane, by the way, he also has something to say about our domain right here, because this domain is about understanding variances and making sure that our team, now we're tying it back into the team domain, that our team is acting on the information. He says this: just because a team doesn't argue and doesn't have personality clashes, but simply gets on with the job at a steady rate, doesn't make them a high-performing team. Okay? So if that doesn't, what does make a team high-performing? Well, in my opinion, a high-performing team is one that consistently delivers on clearly defined goals. Measurement, right? We say, team, this is our goal, this is how we're going to measure you. And if they continuously and regularly deliver on those goals, we can measure that and we can say they're high performing because they deliver the key performance indicator that we said is going to be important. So teams need to focus on whether what they are doing will result in a good outcome and on time, on budget, delivery that meets the client's expectations, or whatever other success criteria or key performance indicators that you choose to decide during the planning stage, right? And if goals are not being delivered, then measurement data allows you to change how the team is working, to adapt the processes, to adapt it, giving the team more chance of delivering what's required within the current constraints. With all of that said, let us move on to another PMP exam sample question. This time I'm just looking for the correct answer here from our audience on Facebook and YouTube. As the current sprint is approaching its target date, the project manager measures the queue size of the various Kanban boards columns and becomes concerned that the team might miss the sprint goal. The project manager shares their concern with the product owner. What is the most likely reason for the project manager's concern? Why does the project manager think they're going to miss it? Is it A, the work in progress limits set for the Kanban board columns, they're too wide for this project? Is it B, the rate at which the work items arrive in the queue is slower than the completion rate from the queue? Is it C, the sprint goal that the project team committed to has not been coordinated with the product owner? Or is it maybe D, the rate at which the work items arrive in the queue is faster than their completion rate from the queue? Whoa, okay, so these are somewhat longer answers. I'm going to give you maybe 30 seconds this time here for you to think about this and give me the answers. Is it A, B, C, or D, please? Yeah, so this seems to be a hard one because I am not getting a single response. Oh, there we go. We have one. The question is blurry. Okay. We have Hamida who says D, question mark. Mike goes with A. Barry goes with D. Arnab goes with A. Let me first of all address this one here, Gaggy 10. The question is blurry. This is nothing compared what you may see on the real PMP exam. When we get lessons learned back from students, they tell us, oh my God, you know, I'm a good test taker. When I take questions in an exam simulator, I'm usually pretty confident about understanding what's going on and how to respond. On the PMP exam, vague, information missing, answers that don't make sense, terminology I've never heard of, right? So this is something that you have to get used to. This type of question, this type of blurriness, this vagueness, this, I'm not even sure what they're asking, right? And this is what an exam simulator will help you with. Getting used to that feeling and going, yeah, okay, I knew this was going to happen. All I can do is I can do the best I can. I can read it, I can analyze it. I have 77 seconds for each question to do this. And I simply have to go, you know what? I think it is F, and move on. Forget about it, right? So this will happen on your PMP exam. It will be blurry. It will be vague. Okay, so what is the correct answer? We've had everything. D, A, no, we didn't have a B anywhere. So it's either a D or an A based on this. The correct answer is, in fact, drum roll please, it is D. The rate at which the work items arrive in the queue is faster than their completion rate. For all those of you who said A, you are in good company. 23% of our customers, students from the exam simulator, actually say that this is A. It's incorrect, yeah, because there is not enough information to talk about the work in progress limits and whether they're too wide or too narrow, and so yeah, it's really hard to argue that this is correct. Yet it seems correct, doesn't it? Okay, so this question is all about Little's law, understanding the speed at which the team is able to work and complete items versus the speed at which new items are coming in. Think about it this way. If a team can work on 10 items a week, a day, whatever, but you have 20 items coming in again and again, it's going to be piling up, right? Okay, from the first 20, you can do 10. Now you have 10 done, 10 are waiting in the backlog, 20 more are coming in. Now you have 30, but out of those 30, you can only do 10, and more are coming in and more. So the rate at which these items are coming in is just too great. And the other way around, right? 5 are coming in and you can do 10 while you'll be sitting around idly, twiddling your thumbs. You can do 10, 10 are coming in. You can do 10, 10 are coming in. It always stays the same, right? So you're looking for that kind of balance in regards to the speed at which new items are coming into the backlog and the speed at which your team can actually deliver these items from the queue. It's called Little's Law right there. Okay, so that was it for our measurement domain, understanding project progress. We are moving on to uncertainty, and the subtitle here is risk is uncertainty that matters. Credit where credit is due. I did not come up with risk is uncertainty that matters. That was my friend and colleague, Dr. David Hilson, also known as the Risk Doctor. He said that risk is uncertainty that matters, right? Yes, you could argue that all projects must navigate through uncertainty, and that would be true. Project managers, we walk into the unknown with each new project, right? Unless you've done a project type 20, 30 times, there are always going to be unknowns. And this, by the way, is what Harry Hall says from Project Risk Coach. We'll hear from Harry in just a moment. We can't predict the future. So you don't know what's coming next. Your project could go smoothly, or there might be a big market or company upheaval that requires many changes. And there could be uncertainty within the work too. You might not know exactly what the product is going to look like when you start building it, or the subject matter may be entirely new to you, right? So we're talking about a stretch project, something you've never worked on, where you really have very little experience with what you need to produce, right? Yeah, project managers, Elizabeth says, have to get comfortable with uncertainty on all new levels, on many levels. For example, have you ever been asked to lead a project where you were not a subject matter expert? Yeah, probably. And so you will know that while you do pick things up quickly, as I mentioned, stretch goal and all that, being able to keep focused when you're uncertain about the topic is a key skill when switching to a new project. Uncertainty is a given. This domain here is more about being able to plan for uncertainty, accept it, and embrace the change management processes when you have to accommodate changes to the plan. It's not about resisting the changes, resisting the uncertainty. It's being able to know it's coming, embrace it, and be ready for it. Jeff Furman from jeff-furman.com says that successful project managers are always on the lookout for uncertain events because they can threaten our projects. And most uncertainties are known, right? So think about the advanced indications of the possibility. Even if there is a project that you have never done before, somebody else probably will. So you can reach out to these people. You can ask, what are the uncertainties, the risks that I'm facing with this project? So you can identify the known uncertainties and you can plan for them. You can get ready for them, and you can have risk processes in place to prepare for that. And talking about risk processes, right? As well as risk management processes, there are other ways of dealing with uncertain situation. Phasing delivery to spread the risk, right? Building incrementally if something is brand new, right? So these here are potential risk management processes that you can take. One is a 6-step approach, one is a 4-step approach, one is a 5-step approach. They're all different, but in the end, they're all trying to mitigate the risk and trying to identify what do we have. As teams work together to establish what uncertainty your deliverables are facing, yeah, consider how to best manage that. One of these approaches might help you. You may choose to avoid some uncertainty and embrace others. We also spoke earlier about who actually tells you how you do your project. Hopefully, I think it was Marjorie who said the PMO. Hopefully, the PMO will also tell you, here's how you're going to look at uncertainty, and here's how you're going to manage your risk. When developing the habit of concentrating on the risks that matter most, you will start getting more done than any 2 or 3 project managers around you. I mentioned Harry Hall previously. This is also something he says. So if you are focusing on what are the risks, which ones matter most, and which ones do I have to worry about, and for which ones do I have to put mitigation strategies in place and work around them, that's where you can really shine as a project manager, get more done. Use your risk analysis thresholds to determine which risks merit a response. For example, all risks with a score greater than 20 are urgent risks, and I have to look at them. You've probably seen that, the probability risk matrix, right, where you have probability on one side, risk, impact on the other, right? And then you place your risks on it. You say, oh, all the ones up here in the right corner, those are the ones score greater than 20. These are the ones that we really need to worry about. And all the others, yeah, we'll just put them on the list, but we're not really going to actively be working on them. Here are some recommendations on how to manage these risks. Look for ways to reduce ambiguity. Your project may be interpreted in various ways. Interview your key stakeholders to uncover the different perspectives of the project. Find ways to reduce complexity. What are the non-value added steps that may be eliminated? Remember value stream mapping from earlier on, right? What are the non-value added steps that you can eliminate? Maybe those bear risk and you want to get rid of them. How can you simplify the process? Also think about whether your project contains variables that change rapidly. For example, a project that requires fuel, gasoline, where prices may rise quickly. The cost goes up and down. How can you manage this volatility? Can you develop contingency reserves for that? Yeah, and finally, as a project manager, you may often be asked, why are we going to be spending that much money on identifying and mitigating all these threats, these risks, these uncertainty? They may never even occur, right? Here it's important to remember and to communicate that the cost of having a disaster is often many times greater than the small amount of money that we spend to prevent it. Yeah, so cleanup is more costly than prevention. Yeah, so much for uncertainty. We're about to move on to the next question, but before we do this, I got a comment here from Arnab from our previous question here. That was the question about, new stuff coming in. He says, how can new items come in during a sprint? Teams plan a sprint based on its velocity. Again, you're absolutely correct, Arnab. This is what should be happening. But guess what? That PMP exam sample question was phrased differently. It assumed that this is what's happening. You cannot, there was no answer, A, B, C, or D, that said, this should not be happening, right? Your team is doing it wrong. So you have to be able to ignore that fact in this particular scenario and say, yeah, I know that shouldn't be happening, but according to this scenario, it is happening. It's not right. This is not the way we're doing it, but we're doing it right now. And you have to say, okay, shouldn't be happening. It is happening. Now that it is happening, what is the correct reason? What is the approach? What are we looking for here, right? So you are absolutely correct in saying this should not be happening. But that's not what the question says. The question ignores that statement and does it anyway. You have to expect these kind of things. In sample questions, you have to expect these kind of things on the real PMP exam. This is the ambiguity that I'm talking about. And sometimes even the incorrectly applied approaches. All right, let us move on to our next and final question here in this lesson. At the sprint planning meeting, the team realizes that there is a high degree of uncertainty associated with the new technology that is required to develop the next product increment. However, further analysis suggests that there are only two possible outcomes from that uncertainty: a threat and an opportunity. So the team prepares a solution for each one, for the threat, for the opportunity of the outcomes. What else should the team do? What else should the team do to address this uncertainty? Should they A, develop a team charter to ensure that all team members follow the agreed upon risk response? Should they submit a change request to have the solution approved by the change control board? Should they C, prepare a backup or contingency plan in case the initial solution is not viable or not effective? Or D, should they create a burn down chart of the uncertainty and track it using a threat profile? A, B, C, or D? I have the first answers coming in. We have a C from Mike, who joins us on Facebook. Manohar gives us a C. Hamida thinks it's C. Barry thinks it's C. Anna thinks it's C. And who am I to say anything different? Yes, it is indeed the answer C that is correct here. Having a backup, having a contingency plan in case that the initial solution is not viable or effective is not mandatory to address any potential outcome, either negative, a threat, positive, an opportunity. However, this course of action here is a good practice for project managers, right? You want to have a contingency reserve right there. And also, if you were thinking maybe, yeah, here, Mike sums it up. Mike says, always have a plan B. Or in this particular case, since C is correct, you need to have a plan C in this particular case here, right? Yeah, so by the way, many students, I think about 15% select D, the last one there, create a burn down chart. Yeah, a threat profile, that refers to a chart that depicts a reduction of risk over time, right? But think about it this way. So the burn down chart is a reactive kind of a thing, right? You do the burn down chart, the what is it called? The threat profile burn down chart. You do this after the fact. You figure out which ones are still there and you see it going down, down, down. That's after the fact. Right now, we are ahead of the fact. We're planning for this uncertainty. So doing this burn down chart, which is for after the fact, doesn't help you at this very moment in time as we are going through this. Yes, so always have a plan B. The answer C here is correct. Thank you, everybody. I have mentioned the PM Prepcast training course and the Prepcast exam simulator a few times during this lesson here. If you don't know where to find them, pmprepcast.com on the left. That is my training course, of which this lesson here is part of. And the exam simulator can be found at pmexamsimulator.com. We have come to the end of this lesson. Thank you, everybody, for joining me here today. Very interactive, much appreciated. And here is the performance domain summary. This kind of summarizes not just what we've done in this lesson, but it summarizes all 8 of the performance domains. So being able to manage project performance is important because it's a key way to know how things are going. These project management performance domains, they allow us to reflect on our progress in different way, help us to plan things in different ways, help us to ensure that we as project professionals are always focusing on, and I'm using air quotes here, on what matters most, right? And they give you a handle as to the most important factors that you need to consider as you lead the work. They'll also shape how you measure, how you evaluate the work, from team morale to quality, key performance indicators, whether you're hitting milestones, whether you're missing milestones. And they ultimately help us ensure that we have satisfied customers. But when it comes to studying for the PMP exam, it is still important to remember that these 8 performance domains and the 12 principles from the PMBOK Guide are only part of the puzzle. The PMP exam is not a test of the PMBOK Guide. It is a test of what the exam content outline defines as this is what you're being tested. The PMBOK Guide is but one of many reference books, and the list of reference books is published by PMI. That much said, however, if you want to get deeper into these performance domains, here in closing this lesson is my take action for today. Yes, I do want you to download the PMBOK Guide from PMI because having it, reading it is a good practice for you to go through those 12 performance domains, project management principles, and 8 performance domains. So go to pm-prepcast.com/PMBOKDL, as in PMBOK download. It's a forwarding link. You have to be a PMI member. You have to be logged into the PMI website in order to download the PDF. What I want you to do is, if you have the time, yes, please do go ahead and read the complete PMBOK guide, all the 8 performance domains. If you don't have it, if you want to just go with the bare minimum, go ahead and do at least review the overview. There's sort of a box at the beginning of each of those domains, sort of purplish box that gives you the executive, the C-level overview of this. Read the definitions. Usually that box is followed by a box with definitions of what is important to know, and read the few introduction paragraphs that follow these 2 boxes, and you'll be good to go, and you'll have a pretty decent understanding of what each of these domains does. Maybe you want to read that a couple of times just so that it sticks with you. That's it for this lesson. Thank you for everybody who joined me on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you for your participation. Until next time.